Today we're going to be looking at a place shrouded in mystery from GTA's HD universe. That is none other than the state of North Yankton, as well as the only town of that state featured in GTA 5, Ludendorff. Let's start with the state of North Yankton and what it's based on, since it's not as cut and dry as one might think. So let's jump right into this. Firstly, what we do know by the in-game dialogue is that the state is located south of the Canadian border, as mentioned by Dave Norton in the mission Dead Man Walking. And over the years, many people on the internet have narrowed it down to a rough estimate of where it's supposed to be, with the most accurate answer probably being that it's based on North and South Dakota. As when it comes to North Dakota, that's something that people immediately associate with North Yankton. However, if we look at the state's license plate, they look far more similar to the license plates that were used in South Dakota from 2001 all the way up to 2006. Going back to the name quickly, the Yankton in the name is another South Dakota inspiration, as Yankton is a city in South Dakota. This is also a good point to start looking at the inspiration for the small town of Ludendorff, which is somewhat implied to not only be where Michael and his family were living at least up to 2004, but could also be possibly Michael's hometown, as he throughout the game mentions that not only did he grow up in a trailer park, but that he also pulled his family out of a trailer park from the Midwest. And in a hangout with Amanda, when she mentions that she wants to leave Los Santos, Michael sarcastically asks, what, go back to Ludendorff? Also, it's implied in the game at a few points that Michael still has family and friends over there, as a postcard in Michael's house can be seen and it says, greetings from North Yankton. It's also possible that Trevor lived in the same town as Trevor when he talks to Jimmy at the time when Michael is living with him in his trailer out in Sandy Shores. He says that they're bunked in together like old times. But moving on to the actual town, what is the town of Ludendorff based on? Well, someone on YouTube made a really good detailed video about this, but I'll go over it briefly since we have a little bit more to cover. But essentially, it's based on three cities: Fargo, North Dakota, Bismarck, North Dakota, and the one I mentioned before, Yankton, South Dakota, with the license plate being taken from South Dakota as well as the state's name Yankton. As for North Dakota, a landmark such as the Pollock Theater is clearly based on, and it looks exactly the same as the famous theater in Fargo, North Dakota, so that's the landmark that's taken from North Dakota. However, Fargo is too big of a city to have Ludendorff based on it, so when it comes to the size of the town, a better candidate turned out to be Bismarck, which is still a lot bigger than Ludendorff, but not nearly as big as Fargo is, and it doesn't have nearly as many residents. So now that we established where this tiny town and the state that it's in are, let's look at everything there and let's look at what we know about it. And before we get into that, I want to ask you to subscribe to the YouTube channel. I am also going to make a real quick announcement here. All of my Kingdom Hearts content is going to be switching to the new channel that I made. It's called Nick's Cage Den. Go ahead and check that out. It's going to be in the description and on my feature page. But essentially, we're going to start off there with the Cage content that's going to be moving over there. And what we're going to do first, I'm going to remake some old videos, maybe re-upload some of the most popular videos, stuff like that. And we'll get to live streaming Cage and stuff like that. There's going to be one video per week on the second channel, 2 videos per week on this channel. That stays the same. And when it comes to live streams, starting this week, we're probably going to have one day is going to be live streams on this channel and one day is going to be live streams on this second channel, so make sure to go ahead and check that out after this video. Back to Ludendorff though, the town was established in 1945 and was named after a German officer from World War I. On the sign that welcomes you to Ludendorff is stated that it's the home of the Midwest's biggest beaver. This giant beaver can actually be found in the town, and this fucking monstrosity stands at 10 meters tall, and it was built back in 1987, which was, funnily enough, a year before Michael Townley committed his first robbery, although that was in Carcer City, which is a completely different part of the United States in the GTA universe, but I just thought I'd throw that fact in there just cuz. Like I said though, this is a very small town, having a population of just over 900 residents, and there's not even radio stations there. However, a form of media that can be found is the Ludendorff Weekly newspaper, which could be the same newspaper newspaper that Michael was featured in during his high school days when he was a great football player. It's also mentioned that the newspaper is sometimes not even published because there's nothing going on. So basically they have nothing to write about, which is kind of sad, but this is in my opinion Rockstar poking fun at the stereotype about the Midwest and how there's nothing to do there and that the whole area is essentially one big abandoned town, that there's no people actually living there, there's nothing to do there. You know, the stereotypes about the Midwest. I don't have to go too deep into that, but a lot of the stuff that I just stated and that I will state in this video is featured on the Life Invader page, which the town has its own Life Invader page, which is kind of surprising to be honest. However, only Trevor can access this page, and this leads me to talk about the landmarks that are visible in game. So let's start with those. So noticeable landmarks that are featured in the game that you can actually see throughout the missions that you play there, or if you access the place with mods, are the church with the cemetery featured in Bury the Hatchet, the main road that leads to the center of the town known as Cavalry Boulevard, the cash depot featured in the prologue, and the little neighborhood, if that's what it could be called, where Michael died, quote unquote, and Trevor ran away. But what about some notable locations that are there but are never featured in the game, which there are a few of, to be honest. So on the Life Invader page, we can find out that Ludendorff has 3 churches, 3 liquor stores, and 3 ammunitions. Other insignificant landmarks in the main area of the town can be seen on Cavalry Boulevard, such as the kitchen supply store, a travel agency, a hardware store, a repair shop, a locksmith business, a pawn shop, a lumber supply company, and a freight depot, and finally a coffee shop can also be seen. Other places that are implied to be there are the trailer park that Michael and his family possibly lived in, a library, as well as a burger place that Michael talked about that he used to go to with his friends after school back in his childhood days. Like Michael said, the town is covered in snow for most of the year, and the Life Invader page states that a temperature of 51 degrees Fahrenheit or 10.5 degrees Celsius is considered really hot. Any residents of North or South Dakota, please confirm or deny this in the comments. I want to know if that kind of temperature is considered hot. Also, Ludendorff apparently smells horrible. Specifically, it kind of smells like shit during parts of the year due to the common sewer malfunctions, and Trevor and Michael talk about this during a hangout apparently, and they say essentially that they're glad they didn't die in a place that smelled like shit most of the time. Although do take this with a giant grain of salt, as I cannot find this conversation for the life of me. Maybe it's some removed content, I don't know. Please make sure to at least verify that in the comments. If someone knows, please clear that up. Thanks. Some final thoughts though from me are that I am really sad that we never got to fully explore this place and that it was never more fleshed out, and how restrictive Rockstar is about us exploring it. And I hope to see the town of Ludendorff again, if not in a future GTA game. I am hoping to maybe see it more explorable, more expanded in GTA Online. Although I know there's not much of a chance for that, here's hoping Rockstar maybe surprises us someday. And with that said, I want to thank you for watching this GTA 5 video about the most mysterious GTA location, probably, at least in my opinion. I really am a fan of North Yankton and I really want to see it again. I'm rooting for that. Let me know your thoughts and opinions on North Yankton in the comments down below. Always love to read them and reply to them. Until the next video stream, bye bye.